The most important value is love. It's pretty simple, really, as you might expect. I mean, life, it's a whole lot of details. When you start putting it together and ask, what does it mean? What's most important? It seems like there should be an underlying unifying factor. Life is not really a lot of details. So live your life with empathy and with love, and I think you'll get the most out of it. I think that's what works. I think if you live your life for profit or for power or for things, acquisitions, those are all me-centered, and it's not going to work if everybody lives for that sort of value. I think it was Kant, the philosopher, who said morality is organizing your life so that if everybody else organized their life in a similar manner, it would work. And
Yeah.
and the planet would be better off and people would be better off.
Let me ask you to spell this out a little bit because, love is in English, you can love your wife and you can love eating hot dogs.
Yep.
So we think about the intense feelings of love we have for the people who are closest to us. And I know that in your case, you might mention your wife who passed away not long ago.
Yep.
Talking about love more broadly, it sounds like my interpretation of what you're saying is, I can't love every person in the world the way I love somebody who's close to me in my family. But what I can do is operate in the world, use the word empathy, operate in the world with a disposition of grace for others, empathy for others. Um, does that fit with what you're saying?
Definitely. Try to live in a way that is understanding of other people. Try to try to see where they're coming from. I'm naturally pretty self-centered, I think,
Mhm.
and I don't think that's a good thing. I was an only child, and I think it comes largely from that. My parents were kind of self-centered too, and I try to get away from that. I try to think more about other people, and so I consciously often tell myself now, Art, think about this other person out there. It's not just all about you. I think we should do that a lot. Um, we should we should think about where people are coming from when they do things that seem to annoy you, when they seem like bad people. I don't think they're really bad people. They're misguided people, people who make mistakes, and we should try to have an understanding of that. You don't always make people feel good when you love them because sometimes people make mistakes and you see them making mistakes. And in that case, if it's appropriate and if you're friendly enough that you can exchange real views with this other person, I think it's in to their advantage. And it's a loving thing to criticize somebody else for doing something that you think is going to make them unhappy. So it's not all about being gracious exactly. It's about really caring about other people.
I like this idea of challenging others when we genuinely think that's necessary. Um,
Sure.
Not because I'm angry, but because I want there to be more happiness in the world. And if someone is doing something that is destructive in some way, then it's in everyone's interest for that to be challenged. I guess recognizing at the same time others can probably detect things in me that need to be challenged as well. So I'm not, I'm not the measure by which the world is, or I'm not the ruler by which the world is measured. I have my own stuff that other people can see easier than I can. And so if I'm going to dish it out, I need to be ready to accept it as well. Ideally, all of this happening in a spirit of grace and empathy. So Aristotle has this idea that, a person becomes a good piano player by practicing the piano. I think you play the trombone, so you become a good trombone player by practicing playing the trombone. And Aristotle's idea is we become honest by practicing being honest. And we can become more gracious, more graceful toward others by practicing grace towards others. When you think about your own way of being in the world, um, what kinds of opportunities does life bring to you that give you a chance to practice graciousness where your first disposition may not be that? You may have your initial impulse might be to, to not necessarily be so gracious, but, here's an opportunity. Okay, Aristotle reminds me if I want to be more loving for others, more empathetic, more gracious, then that's something I have to practice, which takes a degree of work. Can you think of something that, that might come up later today that would give you a chance to practice what you're speaking about?
Yeah, I'm going down to George's Majestic Lounge later on this afternoon. It's a happy hour from 6 to 8 o'clock for a lot of people down there. They have a band, and I'll dance and have a drink or two and talk to people. I rent a table down there usually on Friday evenings at happy hour just for that. If I think the band's going to be halfway danceable and fun. And I've got a table rented this afternoon, so I'll be there at 6 to 8, and I'll run into a lot of people there, some that I don't know very well, but everybody's in a mood to talk to other people, to be friendly, and they usually have a pretty good crowd. I'll think about listening to what they have to say, um, paying attention to other people is a way of honoring them. It's not all about me. I try to keep telling myself that. I'm not a Christian. In fact, I'm an atheist.
Mm.
But Jesus was one of the great men of history to note this. He was an early person to really make this focus of his life, I believe. And I think that's actually true. I think he was a real person, and I think he
Mm.
made he made quite a difference, obviously. Um, and so this is a notion that Christians and everyone else can and I think should adopt. It's it's global, um, and I think that all the world's great religions realize that, and I think that most philosophers realize something like that. What I'm saying is not especially revolutionary, but it sure would be revolutionary if people would put it into action.
Yeah, it's simple to say, but obviously incredibly difficult to practice because human beings have been talking about it well, for as long as we have written history, we know that human beings have been basically rehearsing the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated. This has been around since ancient times. Easy phrase to say, incredibly difficult to live.